Hello, young scholars. This is Mr. Martirone, and in today's class, we're going to talk about the models of American democracy. And our first class objective is going to be explain how democratic ideals are reflected in both the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. So in this class, you're going to learn that the U.S. government is based on the ideals of limited government, including natural rights, popular sovereignty, republicanism, and the social contract from the Age of Enlightenment. We know that the Declaration of Independence was drafted by Thomas Jefferson with the help of John Adams and Benjamin Franklin, and this provides the foundation for something called popular sovereignty. While the U.S. Constitution was drafted several years later, including the ideas of George Washington and Alexander Hamilton, and this provided a blueprint for political democracy in the United States. Now, before we get into the models of American government, I want to go over different types of government around the world. And they include democracy, monarchy, republicanism, totalitarianism, fascism, dictatorship, and communism. We know that the word democracy comes from the ancient Greek word meaning people and rule of government. So a democracy is when people have direct control or direct say in the government of their nation. A monarchy is a form of government led by an individual who holds power for life, having inherited that position, and then they will pass that leadership position on to a relative, usually a son or daughter. We know that in the past, monarchs have had great power and made all sorts of decisions for the country, and this is known as an absolute monarchy. Today, most monarchs act as head of state in a ceremonial role, while the head of government actually is reserved for another leader, such as a prime minister. A republic is a country whose head of government is elected or chosen. So sometimes you'll hear people refer to the United States as a democracy. Actually, we're a republic. We don't vote directly on issues. We elect representatives to make decisions for us. We elect mayors. We elect members of the Board of Education. We elect representatives to serve in Congress. We elect senators. We elect the president, and they make decisions for us. A republic may or may not be democratic. In a democratic republic, people like us in the United States choose their leaders through elections. In a totalitarian society, the government holds absolute control over all aspects of the lives of people. And this is where a set of beliefs is imposed on the people who have to conform or they face unpleasant consequences. This form of government came into being in the 1920s when the fascist governments of Italy and Nazi Germany came into power. Next, we have fascism itself. And fascism is a form of government that's usually headed by a dictator, and it involves total government control over the political, economic, and cultural, and religious and social activities of the people. Some industries, usually military industries, may be owned by the government, while some other industries are owned by individuals. This form of government it includes extreme patriotism, warlike policies, and extreme discrimination against minority groups. Then we have a dictatorship. In a dictatorship, one person, called a dictator, has absolute power. This differs from totalitarianism in that it is less controlling and not marked by such a rigid set of beliefs. Sometimes a country can be run by a dictator, but still called a republic. Such republics have one political party, and the dictator makes the government and most of the policy decisions. And then finally, we have communism. Communism is an economic system in which there is little or no private ownership. Property is held by the community rather than individuals. All economic activity is controlled by the government, including things like what crops are grown, what goods are manufactured, and to whom they are sold and at what price. These decisions are made by communist governments are those that are normally made by private individuals in a non-communist government. Communist governments are usually found in the form of totalitarianism, and traditionally they only allowed for approved candidates that stand for election, and there's usually little or no choice during that election.